Good afternoon, guys. My name is Christopher Lengyel, and I am here today to talk about PTSD and the family system. How does trauma impact each family member? How does it impact mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle? The list goes on, and everyone in the family has a different viewpoint and is impacted in a different way. We have an awesome guest with us today, a new member to helpmeptsd.com as a provider. Her name is Kristi Fowler. She has a master's degree in marriage and family counseling, as well as in philosophy. And we are going to dive into what PTSD is and how it impacts the family system and what you guys can do stuck at home now during the shutdown to help ease these symptoms in the home. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Kristi to our show. Hi, Kristi. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. So good to see you.
Good to see you. Thanks for being on with us today. And why don't you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and what you do?
Yeah, so my name is Kristi, and I have been a therapist in the past and now working as a coach, and love the work I do because it has always been about helping people, developing people. And one of my big motivations has been the fact that I'm a mom. I have a son who's 20 and a daughter who's 19, and they have been some of my greatest teachers, and they have been some of my greatest motivators to really live an incredible life and to heal some of the things. And so for me growing up, I had a lot of trauma in my life as a child, and I've had to work at it. And interesting that although some of that trauma happened years ago, still have needed to work on it as I've gotten older because of my kids being at the same ages or going through different similar situations that have renewed it in me. So that is such an important part. Family matters. We need family, but we need us to be as healthy as we possibly can. And the way we do that is dealing with our trauma.
That's very well said, Kristi. And it's important that we as trauma survivors, or even someone that's trying to be a positive support for someone that has experienced trauma, talk to us about what does that look like in the family system. It's one thing when one person has a trauma, maybe they don't have much family around to support, but it's different when you are in a whole household, have kids running around, and you have one person that's experienced a trauma. What does that look like in the family system, and how can parents work with children who are traumatized? How can the children be educated to understand what mom and dad are going through?
Yeah. So the first thing I want to encourage everybody is just understand you're not going to all have the same perspective. Everybody, even if the event happened where all of you were there, you're going to have different experiences because you literally saw it from a different angle. Let's say your family went through a car accident. If you were the driver, you're going to have a particular angle. If you were the front seat passenger, you're going to have a different angle. If you were sitting in the back row, you're going to have a different angle. And so recognizing that that's okay. One of the things that I found when I work with families has been this need for us all to have the exact same story. And you're really just wasting time and hurting each other when you do that. And so one of the important things is also to understand my reaction to trauma is going to be different than yours, whether it be our male, female, whether it be ages. And so recognizing that I might get really anxious from my trauma, you might get really shut down and withdraw. And so how do we come together and allow that to be okay with each other? And the other thing I would love for you to really hear my heart on is you do not have to do this alone. I know for me, we needed help. But back then it was a pride issue, and it was not okay to get help, that we should have just been able to do it on our own. And that couldn't be farther from the truth. Get the help, especially if you're not sure. It's okay. And that's not weakness.
No, and that makes perfect sense. It really, from my perspective too, in dealing with this, it comes down to communication. It comes down to setting these boundaries. At some point, as a trauma survivor myself, you kind of have to explain to your close friends and family what's going on. What are you experiencing? And when these events happen, whether it's my anxiety or a panic attack or, just a general, I guess, PTSD symptom that's showing up today or tomorrow, it helps when our loved ones kind of understand, hey, it's not mom being mad. It's not mom, being upset with me. There's other things going on, and we have to build a system in the family system to how to deal with this. So what are some ways that, what does that look like? How do we navigate from, okay, everyone in the family knows that there's a traumatic event that happened and things are not the same as they were 24, 48 hours ago. What's the map to success from, the first day after a trauma to, growing together and thriving through this trauma, as you coin on your website?
Yeah. So one of the first things I would say is allowing you that time to grieve. That you had a picture of the way your family was going to be. You had a picture of the way that life was going to be. I know for me, when I was a child and I went through my trauma, I was so shocked that my family went through this horrific event because we were a good family. I thought bad things happened to bad people. I thought bad things happened to people that deserved it, meaning that they had made bad choices in their life and had hurt other people. And I couldn't understand. And so this loss of reality, this loss of a dream that I had, this picture that I had for my life, I had to grieve that. And again, letting that be okay. And the challenge for parents is that you don't have just your own emotions and trauma and grief that you're going through. You have the finances that you're worried about. You have the, how am I still going to work, or how am I still going to pay bills, and how am I got to deal with the doctors, and I got to deal with insurance, or I got to deal with whatever else is being brought up here. And then I also have to be there and deal with, or can I say, deal with sounds bad, but I need to be there to support my kids as well. And especially if they're younger, that support's going to look a lot different than if they were older. And it is so much to manage. And so one thing, have grace for yourself. The other thing is talk to someone. Get some advice, get that help so that you can go through this the best that you possibly can, because nobody got training on how to manage trauma. Nobody did. Why would we? It would be silly. And here's the other thing. Can you make it a rule in your family? And this is a loving rule. And that is, eliminate this sentence from your family's vocabulary. Don't feel that way. Oh, you shouldn't feel that way, honey. Oh, yeah, no, don't feel that way, right? So when we say that to our loved ones, what we're saying to them is, it's not okay for you to feel that way. And the reason it's not okay for you to feel that way is because of the way it makes me feel. And what it does is it makes us go inward. It makes us shut down. And the truth is, our kids love us so much that they are happy to do it, in the sense that they feel like they're protecting you. They get confused, and so they don't want to hurt you because they can see that you're hurting. And so we're having that communication. It is okay to tell your kids, I'm hurting, I'm tired, here's what I need from you. Just like it needs to be okay for them to say to you, hey mom, here's what I need, or here dad, here's what I need from you.
That is just outstanding advice. And it surprises me all the time when I am in different environments and I have someone that thinks it's okay to tell other people how to feel. I've had this happen to me in work environments. I've had this happen to me at the grocery store. Regardless of where the setting is, you have a right to feel whatever it is that you're feeling, whatever emotion that is, whatever problem that you're working through. You have the innate right to feel any which way, and there's no one should be able to come and tell you how to feel or how not to feel about something. And I think that boils down to just being able to feel empowered and know that is that's your right. And that's some of the things that I know in your coaching practice that you help others with, and help women and children and other men that are experiencing relationship problems. You help them feel empowered to know that they don't have to be abused. They don't have to accept defeat when it comes to their feelings or emotions regarding these traumatic experiences.
Yeah.
One of the things that you brought up, and you said it's how we're reacting around our children, and how we engage with them and what we're saying. The same narrative, so to speak, that we're giving to them on what's going on, what's up with mom or dad, or what's going on in this situation. With younger children, talk to me a little bit about what overshadowing does, or the helicopter parent that we see in the news headlines. What impact have you seen that happen in your time working with clients, and is it different for a PTSD or trauma surviving family versus a normal functioning family that doesn't have trauma? What does that overshadowed child look like? How does that come into play with PTSD and trauma in the family system?
Yeah, so the way I would describe it is, I know in my situation, my family went through a really bad fire, and my older sister was burned. 65% of her body was burned. I was standing there at the fire. I just so happened wasn't in the direction of the explosion, and so I didn't get burned. At the same time, I was burned. And so one of the things to recognize is sometimes what we do is we categorize, well, you weren't injured physically, so therefore your trauma is lesser, and well, you were, so your trauma is bigger. And yes, my sister had different aspects that she had to deal with that were excruciating and painful. 25 operations, 4 months in the hospital. Yes, she had challenges. At the same time, I was traumatized too. I was hurt. And I think one of the things that I call the overshadowed children is the event overshadows the other children, or the trauma overshadows the children in the sense that what they're going through isn't as important. Theirs isn't as bad. Theirs isn't as significant. And therefore, we can minimize it and just focus on the one that maybe got injured, or maybe the one that is the most injured. And that's what I mean by the overshadowed. And the challenge is, we do it in families even without trauma. Maybe there's one child that demands more attention. Maybe there's one child that demands more, or maybe has more challenges. And so that can play out in that way as well. You just want to be really aware of that, because again, when we don't deal with trauma, we prolong it. It just buries, it hides itself in new ways. And that's the piece that we don't want to have happen.
Right. No, and that's some really sound advice for our followers here and people who are looking for resources right now. This epidemic or pandemic that's taken over our country and much of the world has had a very serious impact on family systems all across the globe. And Help Me PTSD is, working with a lot of people just like you to help, alleviate some of these stressful situations. So before we let you go today and wrap up our conversation here, why don't you tell our viewers here where they can find you, and how, if they, come to a place in life where they know they need help, and how can they reach out to you, and where can they go to find your information?
Yeah, so you can go to KristiFowler.com and find me. You can go to Facebook and find me, just Kristi Fowler, as well as LinkedIn. I can't encourage you enough. And I'm not saying you have to come talk to me, but I can't encourage you enough to go find someone that you can talk to that's going to be safe, that's going to help you, because you're dealing with a lot of emotions, and that emotion is just fine. There's nothing wrong with what you feel. There's nothing wrong with what you think. And sometimes you just need a guide to help you through that process, so that you don't have to constantly guess and feel alone in the process. And the truth is, sometimes we really need to understand what's driving me in this moment. Why do I have such a hard time when my kids are struggling with certain emotions, maybe with anger, or some other more intense emotions? Now, what is that about me? What is it that I need to address in me, so that I can give them the freedom to have that? And can I just say, I will say, it comes down to us as parents. We've got to do our part in healing and making it safe for everyone in the family to heal and to say what needs to be said. It's important. You matter. And I would love to get a chance to talk with you. It does make a difference.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kristi, for all the things that you're doing in your practice. Again, you guys can find her at KristiFowler.com and book appointments with her as a coach. She has years of experience working with the family system, children, women, men, all different types and walks of life. Okay, so if you're experiencing marital problems, if you're experiencing trauma, and your life is not going in the direction that it can be going, go ahead and reach out. www.KristiFowler.com, or you can head right to Help Me PTSD and find her, because she is a provider on our site. She's Coach Kristi, listed there on our coaches tab. You can schedule her, book her, pay for her services right there, and find out a little bit more about what she has to offer. So Kristi, thank you so much for being with me today. And we would love to have you back on to talk more about other things as they come up.
I would love the opportunity. Thank you, Chris.
All right, you take care. Well, guys, that's a wrap for today's guest that we have for you. We'll be back next week with Army veteran Dominic Perez as he talks about going through the transitioning problems from military life into civilian life. So next week, we've got Dominic Perez, an Army vet, talking about PTSD, substance abuse, and all sorts of resources that we can give out to helping vets transition from active duty right back into the civilian life that they were before they were a service member. So again, my name is Christopher Lengyel. Thank you for tuning in today. And if you have any comments, go ahead and drop them below, and we will definitely get those questions answered for you.